Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. What happened to all of that confidence left Boyds? You guys were making it seem that all of these leads that your candidates had were insurmountable. There's no chance Dr. Oz could be John Fetterman, is what was said over and over. But we've very quickly gone from there's no chance to oh crap, we might actually lose here, and we probably shouldn't be underestimated. Dr. Oz. It turns out shaming Dr. Oz over the fact that he likes wine and crudity and owns investment properties wasn't exactly a good political message now, was it? Turns out that John Fetterman isn't the future of the Democrat Party. As many left Boyds have been saying, it turns out that John Fetterman, just as we predicted the last week, is totally tanking his campaign, and let's just say the John Fetterman headquarters is scrambling, currently panicking to try to save face after last week's massive blunder. Like I keep saying, folks, and so many of these videos, reality is finally setting in, and Democrats are realizing that it's not going to be a cakewalk in the state of Pennsylvania, and probably a bunch of other states, as their far-left candidates are pleased to fail across the board. Even their boy John Fetterman, who's got the biggest lead out of all of them, led that, by the way, continues to dwindle. Let me update you guys on what's going on here, starting with one article. And then let's just get into some of these far-left candidates and continue to highlight why I think they're going to lose, and lose big. Alright, friends. So take a look at this. Democrats aren't laughing at Dr. Oz anymore as Pennsylvania race tightens. It's been clear throughout the 2022 midterm cycle that Republicans must hold Pennsylvania's open Senate seat if they hope to gain control of the chamber this year, and that they wouldn't concede it without a fight. But not very long ago, the contest was a font of comedic entertainment for many Democrats in and beyond the Keystone State, who felt the feckless campaign of Dr. Mehmet Oz was turning out to be a joke early in the summer. Oz's extremely recent New Jersey residency provided fodder for a merciless meme-filled social media campaign by Democrat nominee John Fetterman, then AWS, as clumsy effort to show solidarity with middle-class shoppers via a video about the rising costs of crudities sparked howls of derision of mine. The candidate only compounded his problems when he couldn't seem to give a straight answer about how many houses he owns. Well, Democrats aren't laughing about Dr. Oz anymore. While polls showed a Fetterman cruising towards a relatively easy victory during much of the summer, the race has definitely tightened. Real Clear Politics average shows the state's lieutenant governor up only 4.3% in AWS within the statistical margin of error in two recent polls. It's still Fetterman his race to lose, but now it's clear that he could be influential. Cook Political Report just moved its rating from lean Democrat to toss up, and that alone, folks, is Democrats in sheer panic mode, because in this political environment, in this electoral environment, a toss-up is more likely to lean right than it is left. And the most astonishing thing for me, and probably the most telling thing, isn't necessarily the average lead that John Fetterman is seeing, a 4.3%. But it's rather that his ceiling is dropping. Let me show you guys what I mean on the Real Clear Politics average. We've been covering John Fetterman for months now, and it seems as though in every single poll, he was around 48-49%. Some of these garbage polls, of course, he gets about 50. But those polls are not to be taken seriously. We know the history, obviously. But in all the polls, it seems as though he's had a ceiling of 48-49%. Well, that ceiling seems to be dropping. The two most recent polls has John Fetterman at 45 and 46% respectively, meaning his ceiling was exactly that, a ceiling he wasn't able to get above it. And now, as his campaign is tanking, he's losing support. And this spells doomsday for John Fetterman. Because independent and undecided voters are very likely to split for the Republican candidate, meaning the race is a lot closer than it looks on paper. And that's bad news for the Fetterman campaign that initially was off to a strong start, taking advantage of Dr. Oz, his campaigning blunders. Well, now the blunders seem to be on the other side. And probably the biggest blunder of all is going to be the debate on October 25th. AWS and Fetterman have a big debate on October 25th. How many people will have voted by then? Dr. Oz and John Fetterman are going to have a big debate on October 25th. And well, very simply, folks, John Fetterman is not well, of course, as we've covered, but it's a lot worse than you might think. And once again, we got to tackle this whole hypocrisy issue involving Democrats in their sanctuary city status. Send us all the illegal migrants, we will take care of them and protect them, they said, and Republicans responded with, okay, here you go. And now all of a sudden, no, like this. This is not what we meant. Well, then what exactly did you mean? Because you kept going on and on about how Republicans were soulless and mean and hateful, evil, deplorable racists, and that you were the good guys, send them to us, so we can save them from the tyranny of Governor Greg Abbott, Governor Ron DeSantis, and every other Republican involved. Republicans and southern border states were the bad guys for wanting to secure their borders and protect their communities and save their taxpayer dollars to not deal with the southern border, illegal migrant crisis, rather to use their funds to benefit their own citizens. They were the bad guys. And now as they're taking these illegal migrants and shipping them to these Democrat sanctuaries, as they say, that just imagine blue skies and rainbows, flying puppies, and beautiful lush clouds. Well, now apparently Republicans are still the bad guys. Of course, we got to call out the hypocrisy on all this. No, this is not what we meant when we said we were a sanctuary city, says New York City Mayor Eric Adams. We have not asked for this. New York City mayor declared a state of emergency over illegal immigrants. Let's take a listen, he said. New York is angry. I am angry too. There was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers. This responsibility was simply handed to us without warning, as buses began showing up. There is no playbook for this. No precedent. Okay, we have not asked for this. There was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers. What is this guy even going on about? You literally asked for this, defying Ella's. Of course, immediately hammers the hypocrisy, matching the Daily Wire tweet of Eric Adams declaring a state of emergency. We have not asked for this, with a 2021 tweet from the New York City mayor saying we should protect our immigrants, period. Yes, New York City will remain a sanctuary city under an Adams administration. You literally asked for this. You're openly on the record asking for exactly this. And that's not debatable. No one's making an assumption that is objectively, explicitly what being a sanctuary city means. And it's funny because if you go back to what he said earlier, we have not asked for this, there was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers. That doesn't describe New York City, that describes every Republican border city and border town that are currently being inundated with illegal migrants. And how incredibly frustrating it is. The Democrats just can't get the damn definition right every single time, labeling every single individual as an asylum seeker seeking asylum as a very, very specific thing. Most of the people that are crossing the border are not seeking asylum. In fact, most of the people that are allegedly seeking asylum have crossed over multiple borders in multiple countries to get to the United States. You have to get through Mexico to get to the US. Well, if you're an asylum seeker, the simple question that everyone keeps asking, why didn't you seek asylum in Mexico or every other country that you passed over, if you are in clear, present danger and under threat of political persecution, or the target of violence from an extremist organization or a cartel? Because what we're seeing, these people are not asylum seekers, they're economic migrants. Democrats want to change the definition of seeking asylum to seeking a more prosperous country and seeking better economic opportunity. That is not the definition of asylum. If that was the case, then the majority of the world's population, we're talking about billions upon billions of people, are technically asylum seekers. Technically, refugees. Canada is a pretty decently sized economy. Guess what? The United States is the biggest economy in the world. Does that mean that every single Canadian is a refugee and deserves the right to seek asylum in the United States? Because they want to make a little bit more cash? No, that's a ridiculous definition. Regardless of what the circumstances are. It's an unsustainable, ridiculous idea that makes no sense. And it's that exact idea that has caused this massive crisis to spiral out of control. It's landed right at the feet of southern border counties who don't have the resources to handle this issue. And ever, as Eric Adams said, asked for it, and now they're expected to tackle the entire crisis with almost no help from the federal government. While these fancy posh left-wing big cities like New York City, and the rest of them, declare their states and their cities sanctuaries. Same issue of friggin' virtue signal instead of actually doing anything, overseeing from governments and southern border states as a very simple plea. How about we get a little bit of help here? New York City, Chicago, California, the list goes on. Washington, D.C., you declared yourself sanctuary cities were inundated. We need help. How about you guys take some of the burden off of our shoulders? Shipped over 50 illegal migrants to Martha's Vineyard, and it was the end of the world. Now we're seeing a state of emergency in every single Democrat city receiving I don't know hundreds of migrants, maybe 1,000s. Meanwhile, southern border states have dealt with over 2 million a year. I just cannot stand this hypocrisy. Democrats want to talk about political stunts, but their entire stance is just one political stunt cause these massive issues, these massive crises just so they could virtue signal from far away every life matters. Borders are racist. Republicans are just callous and hateful and heartless, really easy to say when they're nearly 2,000 miles away in New York. Really easy to say when they're nearly 2,000 miles away from the Texas border in New York City tweeting from Starbucks. No human being is illegal. Greg Abbott is a racist. Texas should be harboring and taking in these people. They should declare their state of sanctuary city. Okay, well, here you go. Here's 50 of them. Do you have a spare bedroom in your house? How's this one migrant? Oh, well, girl, you know, I'm real busy. Yeah, you know, my mother-in-law is visiting this weekend, and she's probably going to need that room. Okay, well, how about next weekend? All of a sudden, every single Democrat can be described with this imagery. I'm just sick of the lawlessness and the hypocrisy, the fake virtue nonsense. As they take these issues, they cause direct human suffering. They enable criminal cartels and gangs and criminals, and they pretend to be the compassionate, virtuous bunch, when in reality, when we see them for exactly who they are, they're nothing but absolutely massive, and I mean, massive, gigantic hypocrites and frankly, just bad people. I mean, I don't know how these words came out of Eric Adams' mouth without him realizing how hypocritical he sounds. We have not asked for this yet. And neither did Ron DeSantis or Greg Abbott. They're forced to deal with it because of your party's ridiculous, incompetent president, because of all the promises that Democrats keep making to illegal migrants, putting them up in hotels, and promising free healthcare, issuing driver's licenses and filling schools with undocumented people, exacerbating the issue, creating incentive for cartels to make billions of human trafficking. I can't stand these people. You're not virtuous, you're creating an unsustainable problem that really helps nobody. It doesn't help the source countries. It enables criminal cartels and it creates a permanent underclass in American society, which actually Nancy Pelosi alluded to the other day. Well, we need them to stay down south so they can pick crops. How despicable! These Democrats are not the good guys, they merely manipulate your emotions, and use human lives as political tools while simultaneously decrying the use of human lives as political tools to make a point by shipping 50 to Martha's Vineyard. You cannot be any more of a hypocrite, it's literally impossible. Democrats have hit the peak. And I thank God that we've all been brought together. Alright folks, hopefully you enjoyed the situation update today. Please let me know in the comments. Please do everything you can to support my work and my vision.